Welcome to NFL News with Sylvester. We are going to start with the score from Thursday night, then Saturday's, followed by Sunday's games, and finish it off with Monday night's football game. After the scores, we'll have the news. On Thursday night football, the Los Angeles Chargers lost to the Las Vegas Raiders by 42 points. In this lopsided affair, the Las Vegas Raiders scored 3 touchdowns in the first quarter, 3 touchdowns in the second quarter, 2 touchdowns in the third quarter, and 1 touchdown in the fourth quarter. The final score was the Los Angeles Chargers 21, the Las Vegas Raiders 63. Minnesota Vikings lost a close game to the Cincinnati Bengals in overtime. Cincinnati Bengals place kicker Evan McPherson kicked a 29-yard field goal to end the game. The final score was Minnesota Vikings 24, the Cincinnati Bengals 27. On our third game on the board, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers, who lost by 17 points to the Indianapolis Colts. The game included defensive Pittsburgh Steelers player Devontae Kazay flagged for an illegal hit on the defenseless Michael Pittman Jr. Devontae Kazay was immediately disqualified from the game. The final score was the Pittsburgh Steelers 13, the Indianapolis Colts 30. Our fourth game on the board, Denver Broncos and the Detroit Lions, saw heated Denver Broncos head coach Sean Payton screaming at Denver Broncos quarterback Russell Wilson. The Denver Broncos lost the game by 25 points to the Detroit Lions. The final score was the Denver Broncos 17, the Detroit Lions 42. On our first Sunday game on the board is the New York Giants visiting the New Orleans Saints. There was no feel-good story for the New York Giants. The New York Giants lost to the New Orleans Saints. The final score was the New York Giants 6, the New Orleans Saints 24. The sixth game on this board, we have the Chicago Bears visiting the Cleveland Browns. The Chicago Bears only lost by 3 points to the Joe Flacco-led Cleveland Browns. A highlight was with only 5 seconds left, a Hail Mary pass from Justin Fields reached the end zone, which was tipped by the Cleveland Browns players, ended up in the chest of a Chicago Bear receiver who was in the end zone. But the Chicago Bear receiver could not hang on, and with only 5 seconds left, the game was over. The final score was Chicago Bears 17, Cleveland Browns 20. In the game between the Atlanta Falcons and the Carolina Panthers, both teams only scored single-digit points. The Atlanta Falcons have a very slim chance at the playoffs, but the Carolina Panthers are mathematically out of the playoffs. The final in this rain-filled game was the Atlanta Falcons 7, the Carolina Panthers 8. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers left the warm confines of Florida and traveled to Green Bay to play the Green Bay Packers. But the warm weather team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, still won the game. The final score was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 34, the Green Bay Packers 20. The first game on this board, we have the New York Jets visiting the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins defense did not allow any points on the scoreboard from the New York Jets. The final score was the New York Jets, no score, the Miami Dolphins, 30. The Super Bowl champions Kansas City Chiefs went to the northeast of the USA and played the New England Patriots. The Kansas City Chiefs won by 10 points. The final score was the Kansas City Chiefs 27, the New England Patriots 17. On the third board, on the third game on this board, sorry, on the third game on the board, we have the Houston Texans visiting the Tennessee Titans. Case Keenum, quarterback for the Houston Texans, played in, played in place of injured quarterback C.J. Stroud. The Houston Texans won the game by 3 points. The final score was the Houston Texans 19, the Tennessee Titans 16. San Francisco 49ers went to the desert to play the Arizona Cardinals. The San Francisco 49ers easily won the game over the Arizona Cardinals. The final score was San Francisco 49ers 45, the Arizona Cardinals 29. Sorry. San Francisco 49ers 45, the Arizona Cardinals 29. I think I'm making a lot of errors because it's 2:11 in the morning and it took me a long time to do my script. Okay, so the next game is the Washington Commanders travel to California to play the Los Angeles Rams. Washington Commanders lost the game to the Los Angeles Rams. The final score was Washington Commanders 20, Los Angeles Rams 28. The Dallas Cowboys, America's team, who play in a dome, had to travel to New York State and play the Buffalo Bills in an outdoor facility that was rain soaked. In this wet affair, the Dallas Cowboys lost the game. The final score was Dallas Cowboys 10, the Buffalo Bills 31. The AFC leading Baltimore Ravens played the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jacksonville Jaguars only managed one touchdown and lost to the Baltimore Ravens. The final score was the Baltimore Ravens 23, the Jacksonville Jaguars 7. On Monday Night Football, the game between the Philadelphia Eagles, who traveled to Seattle to play the Seattle Seahawks in Lumen Field, the Philadelphia Eagles, down by 3 points, had quarterback Jalen Hurts gamble with only seconds left. Jalen threw an interception, which led to the Seahawks closing out the game for a 3 point victory. The final score was the Philadelphia Eagles 17, the Seattle Seahawks 20. And now we are going to do the news portion of our show. On our first story, we go to New York. New York Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers on the Pat McAfee show. The host, Pat McAfee, asked his guest, New York Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers, if he was medically cleared, how is his rehabilitation, and what is his football future. Aaron Rodgers started explaining how his rehabilitation was going fine and how he might be medically cleared. But as far as playing this season, the Sports News Review from the Twitter feed of Pat McAfee found this quote from Aaron Rodgers. If I was 100% today, I'd definitely be pushing to play, unquote. Aaron Rodgers will not be playing this season, but plans on returning next season. On our next story, we go to the Atlanta Falcons and the starting quarterback situation for the Atlanta Falcons. Tyler Heineke will start for Atlanta. Atlanta is going to put their slim playoff hopes on a quarterback change. Desmond Ridder, quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons, is being replaced by Tyler Heineke. In 2011, Tyler attended Old Dominion University. In his first year in the NFL in 2015, Tyler Heineke went undrafted, but ended up with the Minnesota Vikings. Terry was signed as an undrafted free agent due to an injury to Mike Kafka as the third string quarterback for the Vikings. In September 2017, Tyler Heineke was signed to the New England Patriots, but released October 9, 2017. In November of 2017, Terry signed with the Houston Texans practice squad, but on December 25, 2017, Terry Heineke made his NFL debut against the Pittsburgh Steelers, replacing T.J. Yates, who suffered a possible concussion. Heineke only lasted one passing play before suffering a concussion and replaced by TJ Yates, who passed the concussion protocol. In April 2018, Heineke was cleared off waivers and went to the Carolina Panthers. Terry appeared for 6 games with the Panthers, but suffered an elbow injury. Terry signed with the team on March 12, 2019, but was released during the roster cuts on August 30th of 2019. In 2020, Terry Heineke signed with the St. Louis Battlehawks of the XFL, but due to the pandemic, the XFL ceased operations for that season. Terry was with the Los Angeles Chargers in 2021. In 2022, Terry Heineke signed with the Washington football team, now called the Commanders. In March 2023, Terry Heineke signed a 2-year deal with his current team, the Atlanta Falcons. On our next news item, we go to the Los Angeles Chargers and owner and president John Spanos. After the loss from the Las Vegas Raiders, both head coach Brandon Staley and general manager Tom Telesco were released of their duties. Owner and team president John Spanos spoke for the first time after the two were released. On the subject of a new full-time head coach, John Spanos, who for the past 11 years had 3 rookie coaches under his tenure. As a head of the football operations, and said that he would be searching for a new coach for the next season, but when asked about hiring a first-time coach again, the quote from John Spano was that not going to limit the search in any way, unquote. The Los Angeles Chargers interim coach is Giff Smith. Giff Smith will coach the Chargers for their final 3 games. Giff Smith was the outside linebackers coach. Previous to being the current interim coach, Coach Giff Smith will have his first head coaching game for the Los Angeles Chargers at home in SoFi Stadium on Saturday, September 12th. The visiting opponents will be the Buffalo Bills, who come off an impressive 31-10 win over the Dallas Cowboys. Sports News Review was not going to do the NFL news with Slyvester this week due to a news story that was troubling. Sports News Review avoided a controversial news item on Von Miller, defensive player on the Buffalo Bills, and it was decided not to do the NFL news with Slyvester that week. If we were not going to include the Von Miller news story, then I said I thought I should suspend the show for that week. The reason behind not doing the news item, Von Miller, was due to the use of a plush toy in my place. I felt that having a plush toy presenting might be inappropriate due to it being a very controversial story. I would have had to represent myself on the video. I'm not ready to be seen on camera, so the decision was made not to do a very controversial news item while presenting it with a Slyvester cat plush toy. Sports News Review then came up with the story of the Pittsburgh Steelers player who was suspended for the rest of the season for an illegal hit. I also was hesitant to do a news item on such a serious matter with the plush toy as the presenter instead of me. Sports News Review is going to do the story without any plush toy as a presenter. This story will be done with a blank screen. Sports News Review does not condone any violence. Although professional football can be a very violent sport, Sports News Review is in total agreement of the NFL policy on player safety and will do the story to highlight the need for the understanding of player safety. As a personal note, I started the YouTube channel Sports News Review in March 2023. I really wanted to promote NFL football, and I've explained that from my first video of how I loved NFL football since I was a young person in the mid 70s. Since the NFL is constantly updating its rules on player safety, I feel fine watching and promoting professional football. The Pittsburgh Steelers defensive player Devontae Kaze was ejected from the game versus the Indianapolis Colts. Pittsburgh Steelers visiting the Indianapolis Colts, and at 8:42 time remaining in the second quarter, Gardner Minshew, Indianapolis Colts quarterback, threw a pass to receiver Michael Pittman. The catch was successful, but when Devontae Kaze, the Pittsburgh Steelers defensive player, tried to separate Michael Pittman and the ball, the hit was led by his shoulder and landed in the area of Pittman's neck and head area. After flags were thrown and the training crew came out in aid of Michael Pittman, who was on his back in pain, it was announced by the referee that it was a legal hit, a 15-yard penalty. But what was more important was that Pittsburgh Steeler Devontae Pittsburgh Steeler defensive player Devontae Kaze was disqualified from the game. Michael Pittman Jr. was able to walk on his own. On Monday, NFL Vice President of Football Operations John Runyon suspended Devontae Kaze for the rest of the season, including playoffs if the Pittsburgh Steelers are able to make the playoffs. One contributing factor to Devontae Kaze's suspension was the repeated violations from the Pittsburgh Steelers defensive player. Under the bargaining agreement with the players' union, Devontae Kaze has the right to appeal. NFL News with Slyvester is sad to report that Ed Budde, it's Budde, a former Kansas City Chiefs offensive guard, passed away at the age of 83. Ed was a member of the first team that played in Kansas City in 1963. The Kansas City Chiefs were the Dallas Texans the two previous years before moving to Kansas City. Ed was also a member of the 1969 Super Bowl winning squad. Ed will be missed by his wife Carolyn, three great grandchildren, and the rest of the Boudet family. Our last news item will be a feel good story. In Hard Knocks season with the Miami Dolphins, wide receiver Brandon Berrios and his girlfriend, Alix Earle, are highlighted decorating a tall Christmas tree. NFL News with Slyvester cannot show any video or audio from the Hard Knocks promo, but watching it was a heartfelt moment of a couple sharing moments putting up the Christmas tree. This has been NFL News with Slyvester. For Slyvester and I, we're both saying over and out.